Welcome into the NIL Lounge. I'm your host, Andrew Miner with the NIL Report. Welcoming in as the Management Consulting Senior Manager, Jeffrey Solomon at Accenture, into our show today. Jeffrey, how are you doing?
Pretty good. It's Friday afternoon, so ready for the weekend. Thanks for having me.
That's excellent to hear. And in this show, we always want to tailor our focus to student athletes in this NIL era and kind of offer advice from a myriad of individuals about what they can do to best boost their brand and best position themselves to make money, both short term while they're in college as well as long term for the future. And thought you were a very good individual to bring on and do this. You have an interesting perspective now being a senior manager at Accenture, but also before that, while you were at Baylor University, you helped co-found and start up the Baylor's club golf team and actually won a national title there in 2014. And so I wanted to see if you could just reflect on that a little bit, if you will, and that experience of kind of taking an idea and taking it all the way to the national championship.
Yeah, so funny you ask. I remember sitting around my freshman year. I wasn't really involved in any activities or sports and always enjoyed sports, particularly golf. And I just emailed student activities and asked, like, hey, do you guys have a club golf team? If not, I'd like to start one. And it so happened that somebody else was also in the process of starting a club golf team. That very weekend, tryouts were being held. So I had to like brush up on, hit the driving range and uh, brush up on my skills a little bit before trying out. But ended up making the team, scrapped together probably 10 to 12 guys, and actually had a pretty good pool of people to pull from at Baylor, fortunately. And yeah, that's when the club golf team began at Baylor. Um, Ended up being a pretty strong team over the years. As you mentioned, we won the national championship in 2014, which was pretty cool. And then our team actually never finished worse than third place in nationals. So we were always competing at a national level, which was a lot of fun. Um, it I can't take credit for being the one that started it, but I was one of the founding members of the team, and there was a lot of administration and stuff that we got to participate in as team members, but also as kind of the owners of that team, if you will.
Yeah, definitely. I want to touch on that national championship a little bit, and it could be from the national championship year or a different year. Obviously, you said you were competing at national level, kind of year in, year out. But what was like the favorite moment or memory for you? Come looking back at some of those national tournaments.
Um, I don't know if one specific moment jumps out. I just remember having really good camaraderie with my team and getting to, travel around. We were a club team, obviously, so we weren't traveling at the national, like at the NCAA level, like NCAA athletes are used to, but it was a lot of fun still getting to have that same kind of feeling at a club level and knowing that we're competing at a level that's higher than most club teams were. Made us almost feel like NCAA athletes. So that was fun. And then obviously getting recognized in the Baylor newsletter and all the announcements after we won the national championship was kind of validating and fun for us.
Yeah, definitely. And to start anything, I think takes a lot of drive and initiative. And I think that's what we're seeing with the current, this current era of college sports of, every athlete can essentially earn money off their name, image, and likeness and makes everybody basically their own mini business entity. But you still have to have that initiative and drive to kind of, reach out or, want to go get it, make the time, have the discipline to do that. You were one of the founding members of the team, and then you guys had some good players, but you still had to work to get up to that national championship level. What would be your advice? Just thinking about everything I just said, and what would be your advice to student athletes to about how do they find that initiative, how to take that initiative, that first step. A lot of athletes probably just don't know that first step of where to take to try to make money or pursue NIL.
Yeah. So I'll address your first question about just like what did it take for me. I guess what's the difference between the people that are successful and the people that aren't. And so for us, I mean, there was no team. I could have, being someone who just enjoys golf, I could have just gone out and played with my buddies every day and had fun with that. But I chose to kind of pursue that next level. And it did require effort to go through the hoops of reaching out to student activities and just trying to figure out what I had to do to reach that next level. So I think the first step is taking that initiative and having that drive to kind of want to make more of yourself in that way. Not letting it come to you, but going out and getting it. And then I would say, I mean, NIL wasn't around when we first started at Baylor. And so I didn't have any experience with that, also not being an NCAA athlete. But I would say it's a new world that a lot of people don't know much about. And so find somebody that does know something about it and work with them, because like you said, it's like starting a business. You can't start a business without knowing anything about how to start a business unless you're working with somebody who does. So that would be my advice.
Right. Yeah. You can't start, an AC company, but not know how to repair an AC unit or something like that. That'd be a poor business model.
You might be the guy that knows how to repair an AC unit really well, but doesn't know how to start a business. And those are two different skills.
Definitely.
You guys, I mean, athletes might be able to perform really well on the field, but they don't know how to manage finances and put their name out there. And that's the part that I think an advisor or something would help with.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think a lot of people that have come to us have said kind of put develop a personal board of advisors for yourself, contacts that you can reach out to for advice and bounce ideas off of, maybe 3 or 4 people and that you trust, that are close to you, that can be your mentors. And I think an important way to do that is show initiative and a go get it attitude. But B, it involves a lot of networking skills. That's something that I think you've experienced. You've been very successful with at your time in the corporate world at Accenture. How would you advise someone, a young person, young athlete, to hone their networking skills and to develop and grow their network?
It's all about practice. It sounds a little funny because you don't really think about practicing networking, but if you're not good at it, it does take practice to get there. I remember when I first started my job, I never really had to network very much. It was kind of a new concept for me to, put my name out there, make sure people knew who I was, so that I would have more opportunities later on down the road. But they really pounded that into us, especially our first year on the job, how important it is to build your network. And consulting is interesting because you're always finding new projects and kind of interviewing for a new job almost on a at least a yearly basis for most people. So it's important for people to know what your skills are and who you are, so that if a new project comes up, they're thinking of you and not other people. So networking became a skill that I'm still not perfect at, obviously, but I've gotten a lot better at, to know who to network with, what level of networking is needed with that person. And when I get the right opportunity to ask the right question, I'm able to do that better because I've done it before and I've worked on that skill a little bit.
Yeah. And how would you define networking in the most simplest of terms? I think it's a term that gets thrown around a lot, and but people don't quite know, maybe what it exactly it is.
Yeah. So networking would be basically getting connected with people of different skills that can just, so for example, if you're looking for an AC repair guy in our example, um, if you're well networked and well connected, you'll either know an AC repair guy because you've networked with them before, or you'll know somebody who does. And so being well connected by knowing people is kind of, at least my thought about what networking is, just knowing people that can help you get connected in different areas.
Yeah, I think that's well said. And then, you know, then taking the initiative to reach out to that person and ask for an introduction, or ask for help on, whatever you're trying to accomplish, whatever you need help with. That's one half of the networking. I would say the other half is be prepared to deliver the value, and whatever you ask for, be sure to, at the very least, follow up with with a thank you note or a thank you email or something like that. And then if someone comes to you, or whatever you talk with that person about, if you ask them for an interview, for example, be sure to try to write it up. Write up the article. If it's a media member, and you're asking an athlete for an interview, like, write up their story quickly so you can get it out, and then next time you want something, they're more inclined to give you a favor. I think that's how you build a strong network, both sides of the coin, I would say.
I think that's a good point too. You're kind of developing trust with people as you're meeting them, and the more they learn that they can trust you, the more they're going to want to stay in touch with you as well and leverage you for things that they need. And it's a two-way street. It shouldn't just be me asking people for things all the time. I'm kind of volunteering myself to be someone that they can rely on in a time of need.
Right. What can you do for them? Not just what can they give you. Two-way street. I like that. Another really important skill that we're seeing more and more for college athletes these days is being able to negotiate well, and know kind of what leverage and power they hold, and how to use it to really maximize the compensation that they want in these deals. And I know you've been also successful in the consulting world, and have done a lot with negotiating, whether it be with businesses or internally to get on projects, things of that nature. How would you describe negotiating? Because I think there's many different levels of it. And what advice would you give to someone, especially a college athlete, to build the skills to become a strong negotiator?
Sure. Yeah. So negotiation, I can't say that I've done as much like financial negotiation. I've never really had to renegotiate my salary or try to, convince somebody that I'm worth more, like NIL athletes might need to do. But negotiation is something I do every day in my job, as far as trying to convince my clients that the path they're going down is the wrong path and they need to consider something else. That's negotiating, because you're telling them that what they're pursuing is wrong, and what they need to be pursuing is what they need. So I think negotiating is saying that you have a skill, for example, that they need, and you're trying to tell them that there's a kind of a market value of your skill, and if they're not proposing to give you what your skill is worth, then you need to stand up for that and say, hey, like, everyone else is getting this value, and I think I'm better than everyone else at this, so I need to at least be getting X market value or more, and here's why. And I think the justification of the why is important. People aren't just going to shell out money for nothing. So
Right. You really have to be able to communicate the value of either yourself with your value proposition, or your solution or service that you're providing. For example, a social media post for an athlete, it means is a lot more valuable if I have 1 million followers versus just 1,000 followers. And you really want to be able to respectfully articulate that. And the negotiation process goes hand in hand with whatever it is you're selling. So I think negotiation and sales kind of go hand to hand. And I think of it as the most simplest of terms is that negotiation or sales is basically convincing someone to do something that they either don't necessarily want to do or haven't thought of doing, and don't see a need for it. You have to kind of be able to show them why that need exists and how you can do something better and create value for them.
Yeah, that's well said.
Yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate it. No, just going back to when you reflect on your golf career, reflect on your corporate career, what are a couple other biggest lessons that you've learned that you wish maybe you knew back when you were at Baylor, as a younger person, that might be applicable for today's student athletes?
So I would say probably the most important thing that I've so far taken away from my work and my time just working on group projects and things at school is that you could be the smartest person in the world, you could be the best at what you're doing, but if you're a pain to work with, nobody will want to work with you, or nobody will want to bring you onto their team, or pay you for it, whatever. So I think it's a fine line between negotiating and expecting to be compensated for your value and feeling entitled to get whatever you want or you're going to walk away. You see athletes every day now saying, give me what I want or else. And the athletes being the boss instead of the owners and the teams. And I think that's just driving a wedge in the relationships that you've built. And it's becoming more and more rare to see a player who is good at what they do that's not selfish and greedy. So I think my biggest piece of advice or takeaway is don't be demanding, be respectful, and be fair, ask for fairness, but don't be overly greedy with what you're demanding or expecting of people.
Yeah, it's interesting because not only do you have the team environment that you're playing whatever sport it is, volleyball, soccer, football, whatever, but there's also the team environment of the brand or the company that's about to hire you to do an NIL activity. They're hiring you essentially to become part of their team, and if you're not a good teammate to them, or you're just obnoxious or overbearing to work with, like you said, demanding, then they're not going to want to work with you in the future. I think the goal would be to create long-lasting partnerships that can serve you well after your playing days.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you could get a huge deal off the bat, and if you last 1 year, then you're only going to get paid for that 1 year versus, like you said, a long-standing, respectful relationship that lasts a long time.
Yeah, where it could be lucrative for all parties involved. Absolutely. Jeff, before I let you go, and thank you again so much for joining. I know it was only club golf, but if there was one NIL deal, a dream NIL deal of yours that you could go back in time and do and complete, what would that be for Jeff the influencer?
Man, that's hard, because it wasn't even really a concept for us back in the day. So I can't say I've put a whole lot of thought into it already, but typically you'd be like working with a company, right, that would come in and sponsor you and give you name recognition, right?
Yeah, it could be, a lot. Just an example, if Nike gave you shoes to wear and some money and some shoes to wear to as long as you posted about them on your Instagram or something like that. That could be just an example of a deal. But I don't know if there's a specific Baylor spot that you always enjoyed or business in Waco. Could be a national brand, could be a local brand to Waco that you would be like, yeah, that's the one deal I want.
Yeah. I mean, it's easy to say as a golfer that I'd love for Titleist to have sponsored me and given me free golf balls and stuff. But like, even one of the club, like one of the golf courses in Waco, I think that probably would have been a more realistic sponsorship for somebody who was playing golf at Baylor. So we played a lot at Cottonwood Creek, and it was an enjoyable course to play for us. So even something like that, where they sponsored me, they offered us free practice and free rounds, and we're able to kind of get our name out there. I would have been happy with something like that.
Yeah, that would have been really cool. Obviously, you guys, I know, spent a lot of time there playing rounds and practicing. So it obviously paid off. And now you have, a really nice, successful career after golf as well. But really appreciate you coming on, lending your insights, and hopefully there's some good takeaways that that student athletes can take away from this conversation for their NIL endeavors. So Jeff, thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, and best of luck to everyone who's going through this NIL adventure. It's exciting to see all the fun stuff that athletes are doing, and the recognition that they're getting for the great work that they're putting into their craft. So thanks for having me on. Hope you have a great rest of your day.
You too.